I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. And I've noticed this willingness from people who think a lot like I do that, look, we told you so. To all these white working class voters, we told you so. We told you that Trump was going to be a terrible candidate.
Well, 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 look who suddenly found his MAGA hat at the bottom of a bargain bin. JD Vance. Yes, that JD Vance just pulled off the most shameless political backflip since Lindsey Graham decided Trump was his bestie. This man went from Trump is the devil to Trump is my personal Jesus without even blinking. A guy who once prided himself on having principles is now practically applying to be Trump's emotional support animal. It's not just a flip-flop, it's a full-blown Cirque du Soleil level contortion act. And guess what? We're about to unpack every juicy detail of this ideological faceplant. Stick around, because what happens next, it's even slimier.
The whole reason Donald Trump needs a new VP is because he called Mike Pence the P word because he wouldn't be the final nail in his coup coffin and then left him to die. His supporters wanted to, quote, hang Mike Pence.
And by the way, JD Vance has said he would not have certified those electors.
Can I show you what So JD Vance was actually, confronted by Fox's Brett Baier about all the things JD Vance said about Donald Trump.
Let's just pause there. Trump tried to end democracy with a Sharpie and a chant. And JD Vance, he's out here volunteering as tribute for round 2. Just to be crystal clear, Pence narrowly avoided becoming a MAGA sacrifice, and JD's big idea is, hey, I would have helped finish the job. And don't miss this, even Fox News had to call him out. You know things are bad when Brett Baier starts sounding like a fact checker at a reality intervention. Flashback to 2016, JD Vance, still pretending to be a guy with convictions, was out there dragging Trump like it was his part-time job. He wasn't just not a fan. He was a walking anti-Trump monologue. Watching him back then was like seeing a toddler go off because someone touched his juice box. Except in this case, the juice box was democracy. The dude even wrote a whole book that basically screamed, "Please, I'm smart, not a Trumpy." And now, he's groveling like Trump's biggest fan on Cameo.
In some ways anti-American. It's fundamentally that the deck is so stacked against you that unless I'm the president, nothing that you do will change your life's outcomes. I think it's wrong, and I think it's very self-destructive.
Oh yeah, that's JD Vance again. Back when he was still pretending to have a spine. He wasn't just anti-Trump, he was practically building his entire brand around not being Trump. Like a moody teenager yelling, "I'm nothing like my dad." The guy went on a full PR tour, desperately trying to distance himself from the orange tornado, and honestly, it was kind of cute. He called Trump a fraud, a threat to democracy, and a walking red flag in a suit too big for him. At that point, JD was basically the voice of reason in a room full of Republican chaos goblins. Like, look at me, I'm not like the rest of them, I read books.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history, it's that Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Ooh, let that one marinate. That's not just political criticism. That's full-blown character assassination. He didn't just think Trump was a bad leader. JD straight up thought the guy was rotten to the core. He painted him as a walking, talking Republican dumpster fire. A candidate so toxic he could kill houseplants just by tweeting. And JD wasn't subtle about it either. He was hurling verbal grenades from the bleachers, lighting up Trump like it was the 4th of July. And not once did he flinch. Every insult, calculated, every hot take, carefully crafted to make it crystal clear. I am not part of the Trump cult, okay? But here's the kicker. For a guy so desperate to be the anti-Trump voice, it's wild how fast he's now auditioning to be Trump's loyal lapdog. JD didn't just eat his words. He dipped them in ketchup, folded them into a MAGA hat, and asked for seconds.
The media sort of asked me to be the spokesman for the white working class voter who's voting for Trump, right? But as somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, I understand where Trump's voters come from, but I also don't like Trump himself, and that's made me realize that maybe I'm not quite part of either world totally.
Ah yes, peak JD Vance, straddling the fence so hard he's practically getting splinters. Back then, JD couldn't have made it more obvious. He wanted nothing to do with Trump or the culty crowd waving his flags. He positioned himself as the tortured intellectual, the guy who gets why Trump voters are mad, but who still can't bring himself to high-five a flaming garbage can. And let's be honest, he wasn't just not a fan. He was relentlessly critical. Every time he opened his mouth, it was like a passive-aggressive TED Talk on how not to run a country. While other Republicans were busy tying themselves in rhetorical knots to avoid upsetting the MAGA base, JD came out swinging. No filter, no sugarcoating, just blunt force political shade. He was calling out Trump's every move, from the policies, to the lies, to that barely coherent Twitter rage spiral, like he was leading some kind of anti-Trump intervention, and somehow he pulled it off without torching his own career. At least, not yet.
This woman is not a show-off. She's just telling what happened so we can know it.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
Oh, that one's chef's kiss. JD just straight up said Trump couldn't tell the truth if it was printed on a teleprompter and set to Fox News music. And that wasn't even a slip. That was full sarcasm mode, live on camera, practically daring MAGA Nation to come for him. This wasn't a light disagreement. JD was standing on top of his moral soapbox with a megaphone screaming, "Trump is the problem. If you support him, you're part of it." At one point, he even framed Trump's rise as a symptom of decay. Like Trump wasn't just a bad president, but a rotting banana peel at the bottom of the GOP fruit basket. And it didn't stop there. JD gave interviews where he called the entire Trump presidency a disaster. Not problematic, not flawed. A full-blown flaming wreck on the interstate of American politics. He even accused Trump supporters of being too scared to tell the truth, as if JD was the brave hero sent to rescue the country from a Cheeto-flavored apocalypse. It was like he thought he cracked the code to fixing America, and step one on the whiteboard said, delete Trump.
I think that this election is really having a negative effect, especially on the white working class, right? Because I think a lot of these grievances are legitimate, but what it's doing is it's giving people an excuse to point the finger at someone else. It's point the finger at Mexican immigrants or Chinese trade or the Democratic elites or whatever else. And sometimes these villains are legitimate. I think it's totally fair to say that the policy elites of the Democratic Party haven't been totally concerned about the white working class. But at the same time, fundamentally what's going on and what Donald Trump has done is change the focus of the white working class from a sort of engaged and constructive politics to a politics of pointing the finger.
This right here was JD Vance doing his best impression of a TED Talk titled How Trump Turned Politics into a Blame Game. He wasn't hinting at criticism. He was unloading on Trump's core message like a frustrated high school teacher grading a failing essay. And you know what's wild? He even threw shade at MAGA itself. Like the entire slogan, JD basically rolled his eyes at Make America Great Again and said, "Yeah, sounds like something your cranky uncle screams at the TV." He saw it as a call to go backward, not forward. A dog whistle for every person longing for the good old days when facts weren't so inconvenient. That's a bold stance coming from a guy who now claps like a trained seal every time Trump breathes.
And my biggest problem with Trump, and there are many, many things to pick out, but my biggest problem with Trump is that his message to the right, especially the white working class of which I came from, is anti-conservative.
Oof. That was JD literally saying, Trump is bad for conservatives, and I should know, I used to be one. He painted Trump's brand of populism as a total con job, dressing up grievance politics and calling it leadership. To JD, MAGA wasn't just a step backward, it was a giant leap into a political black hole where yelling louder somehow counted as policy. He framed Trumpism as toxic junk food for angry voters, tasty in the moment, but long term, total heartburn. But now, fast forward to 2025, JD Vance has gone from Trump critic to Trump groupie faster than you can say polling bump. This is the same guy who called Trump a charlatan, a disaster, and the death of real conservatism. Now he's practically writing love poems to Trump's ego, acting like he just discovered the second coming of Ronald Reagan, if Reagan had 3 indictments and a Twitter addiction. So what changed? Did JD suddenly have a come to MAGA moment in the middle of the night? Please, let's not kid ourselves. The more likely scenario, JD saw the reality of Republican politics and realized the Trump train doesn't slow down. It runs over anyone who doesn't get on board. He did the math and figured out real quick that loyalty to Trump isn't a liability anymore. It's a launch pad. The man didn't sell out, he cashed in.
And I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
I don't know if the flip-flop doesn't make you throw up in your mouth, the sycophant he's turned into might.
Honestly, we should be studying JD Vance in science class under rapid mutations in political species. This man went from Trump is America's Hitler to Trump was a great president faster than you can say poll numbers. It's not even a flip-flop anymore. It's a full Olympic backstroke in a pool of MAGA Kool-Aid. And here's the thing, JD isn't even pretending he forgot what he said. No, he just decided power tastes better than pride. He saw the cameras, he saw the polls, he saw the Trump cult still swinging red hats like pom-poms and thought, what's a little soul selling between friends?
I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I'm definitely not going to vote for Trump because I think that he's projecting very complex problems onto simple villains.
Ah yes, let's all take a moment to remember that JD Vance, the one who thought Trump was basically running a con game. Back then, Vance talked like someone who actually had values. Like he was standing up for working class Americans without trying to turn them into pawns in a reality show presidency. He called out Trump's blame everyone but yourself routine. He trashed the idea that every issue in America could be pinned on villains, like immigrants or Democrats or windmills or whatever was trending that week on Truth Social. Vance saw through it. He said so, loudly. But now he's MAGA's newest mascot. It's not a redemption arc, it's a sellout saga. The same JD who once wrote about poverty, addiction, and broken communities in Hillbilly Elegy is now happily sitting shotgun on the Trump train, honking the horn and waving from the window. His transformation is basically the political version of watching a guy burn his own book live on TV while chanting, "Let's go, Brandon." It's not like the old JD disappeared. He just got buried under ambition, and at the end of the day, he made his choice. Truth or Trump. He chose career.
I don't hide from that. I was certainly skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016, but President Trump was a great president and he changed my mind. I think he changed the minds of a lot.
Oh, he's not hiding from it? No kidding. JD Vance is embracing his Trump flip-flop like it's a political cuddle blanket. This man used to warn America about Trump like he was a national fire hazard. Now, he's out here calling him the second coming of George Washington with better hairspray. Gone are the speeches about divisiveness and reckless leadership. Now JD Vance is basically the guy holding Trump's Diet Coke during rallies. It's like watching someone who used to call pineapple on pizza a crime suddenly scarfing down a Hawaiian pie and saying, "No, really, I've always loved this." So how did we get here? Did JD truly have a MAGA awakening, or did he just smell the power in the air? Let's look at the timing. His change of heart just happens to align with the exact moment Trump fully conquered the GOP and turned the Republican Party into his own personality cult. Coincidence? Please. JD took one look at Ohio, deep red, MAGA country, and realized real quick that criticizing Trump there is like booing the quarterback at a home game. Not smart. And JD is nothing if not strategic. He didn't just shift gears, he slammed the gas pedal toward Trump Tower.
Kristen, I think that I've learned my lesson on speaking for the president before he and I have actually talked about an issue.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly that he would.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to
Well, I
your
won't
desk?
have to.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, JD Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD, in all fairness.
Senator Vance, just to clarify once and for all, if Donald Trump were to be elected, if a federal abortion ban were to land on his desk, would he veto it?
Well, Kristen, as you saw the president say, we hadn't discussed it. We still haven't discussed it, by the way, because it's not realistic, Kristen. I think that was the point.
This part, absolute chef's kiss. JD tries to speak for Trump. Trump says, "Who?" Then JD backpedals so hard, we're surprised he didn't sprain an ankle on live TV. He tries to look like an insider, but Trump straight up ghosts him. It's giving clingy campaign boyfriend energy, and it is not a good look. Because let's be real, this isn't about ideology, it's about survival. Vance figured out the golden rule of Republican politics in the Trump era. You either kneel or you're kneecapped. He went from branding Trump a con man and a threat to democracy to basically auditioning for VP like it's the Bachelor MAGA edition. And honestly, it's hard not to wonder, was the old JD ever real? Or was it always just a performance waiting for the right spotlight? Because the man we see today is a political chameleon, changing colors based on whatever flag Trump happens to be waving. It's not a transformation, it's a disappearance. The JD Vance who once stood for principles. Yeah, he got replaced by someone who knows exactly where the power is and is more than happy to kiss the ring to keep it.
Why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear?
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay.
Ah yes, the classic I didn't sell out, I just read some bad headlines defense. JD Vance is now pretending his entire anti-Trump phase was just a misunderstanding. Like he accidentally tripped into calling Trump America's Hitler because CNN tricked him. Give me a break. This man is now tripping over himself to convince people he's MAGA's most loyal disciple. He's not just playing the Trump game, he's trying to win MVP. Gone is the guy who once warned us about Trump's toxicity. Now, JD's up there on stage calling him a great leader, like he just got hired to write propaganda for a state-owned media channel. It's not a pivot, it's a full-blown personality transplant. And here's the real kicker, even Trump doesn't buy it.
You have to hear what Trump just said about his own Vice President, JD Vance.
Do you view Vice President JD Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable.
Damn, that was a quick no.
Ouch, that's not just a rejection, that's cold-blooded. Trump didn't even pretend to hype him up. He gave JD the political equivalent of, he's nice, but no thanks. And that right there tells you everything you need to know. JD Vance has gone all in for Trump. Flipped, flopped, kissed the ring, recited the slogans, and still gets dismissed like a second-string backup. But this isn't just cringe, it's dangerous. When someone can go from hating a man to worshiping him this fast, it doesn't show open-mindedness. It shows they'll say anything to get ahead. One day he's warning us about cultural heroin. The next he's calling Trump the cure. How can you trust someone like that? Spoiler, you can't. JD Vance is the ultimate political chameleon, a man who changes his entire worldview based on poll numbers and camera angles. He doesn't stand for policy, he doesn't stand for people, he stands for promotion. And the scary part, he'll say whatever it takes to climb the ladder, even if it means stepping on every value he once pretended to care about. And if you think this was the peak of political shamelessness, oh, buckle up.
Good evening from New York, I'm Chris Hayes. There is no denying there are a lot of things going on in America right now, heck, just today, that really don't look very much like America, or at least the best version of ourselves that we like to celebrate. Young foreign students and others being grabbed off the street by masked police in state-sanctioned abductions. Performative cruelty and twisted photo ops by top government officials. Criminals pardoned of the crimes if they support the current leader. And these bizarre spectacles of subservience in the Oval Office. Donald Trump's bet is at acting like a dictator.
And right there, that is the version of Trump that JD Vance has hitched his wagon to. A guy who runs the White House like it's a cult with better branding. And JD, he's not just okay with it. He's auditioning to be the high priest. Let's be real, JD Vance has never been about values. He's been about whatever works at the moment. He'll flip-flop on any issue, if it gets him closer to power. Monday, he's praising Trump like he's Moses. Tuesday, he's pretending to be the adult in the room. Wednesday, he's somewhere in between, testing the wind with a wet finger. There's no vision, no plan, no backbone, just chameleon mode. Activated, change the colors, smile for the cameras, grab another soundbite. So the next time JD Vance tells you, I support Trump now, just remember, it's not about loyalty, it's not about America, it's about him, and only him, because the one consistent thing about JD Vance, he'll say whatever it takes, as long as it serves JD Vance. And if you thought this was wild, click here to see the next insane twist in the Trump circus. No joke, it's completely unhinged.